This is my Harley Benton SC-550 Deluxe. It's a working guitar, it's my main guitar, it's my only guitar. And I just wanted to give a review, tell people how I'm getting on with it. After a year of use, I've had this guitar since November, December 2019. It's now February 2021, so it's a little over a year's use. And I thought I'd go through some of the positives, some of the negatives, and some of the really negative. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, let's start with the good. This light is doing it no favours at all, but fundamentally, that's a pretty guitar. Just is. Now, some of you might not like this shape here. You might prefer something slightly more Les Paul, but that's subjective. It's a real wood top. It's a pretty guitar. I'm very pleased with how it looks, generally. So let's start at the top and work our way down. This is the headstock of the guitar. I'm less keen on that. The tuners work, I'll say that for them. They pretty much hold tune, although we've got to discuss what do people mean by staying in tune. Primarily I'm a cellist, and instruments like cello, they stay in tune for days, really. I mean, you may have to do very slight adjustment, but basically they stay in tune for days. When you haven't got locking tuners on a guitar, they don't stay in tune for days. It's just not a thing, especially not Les Paul ones. For a Les Paul sort of style guitar, i.e. 3 on each side headstock, with this angling through the nut, this pretty much stays in tune. It's not great, but it could be a lot worse. Fundamentally, the guitar stays in tune for long enough that it's properly useful. The nut itself, let's have a good look at that. In terms of what it's doing, I guess it's okay. In terms of how it feels, try and get that in focus. In terms of how it feels really cheap. Imagine like a Bakelite sort of style material, not a sort of sub plastic. In terms of the setup, I'm no luthier, but see for yourself. That's okay. There's just a tiny little gap when I'm pressing down on that fret, on the bottom string and the first fret. So in terms of that bit of setup is good. Generally speaking, the setup on this guitar was abysmal, and I'll go into that. But in terms of there, that's good. I think it's a bit low on this side. I don't know, I'm not a luthier for sure, but the string itself here, on the top side, the string itself does come into contact with the fret as I'm pressing down there. That could be fine, I'm not sure. It certainly is not enough of an issue that it makes any difference when I'm playing. But like that, I'm not pushing notes out of tune on the top strings because they're in contact with the fret. So I'm not particularly worried about that. Working our way down now onto the actual fretboard. The frets are not great. They're quite a soft material. How much do I play this guitar? I'd say I play every day. Normally for a couple of hours. It's going to be quite difficult to catch this, but you can see there's fret wear on there. Yeah, very difficult to capture it. Doing my best. There's quite a lot of fret wear. So I say I play probably for about half an hour to 2 hours every day. The fretboard material, again, as I say, I'm a cellist. I'm used to a full-on ebony fingerboard. This is obviously far less than that, but let's be realistic. This instrument cost £230, 270 euro. Yeah. So it's, in my opinion, completely acceptable, this fretboard, for that money. The inlays are decently done. They don't interfere with how I play. It's a smooth enough surface. It feels a bit dry, but not unworkably so. It's not interfering with how I play. It's just not to my taste. A bit like that, not really. Yeah, so everything works as it should. It's just, you may not particularly like it. Fret leveling, the frets are not particularly level. It's not a huge problem. You see some of the fretwork there, or is it just shadow? Yeah, difficult to tell. It's not a huge problem, the fret leveling. I don't have particularly badly buzzing frets or anything like that, but I would not define these as well leveled frets. The fret dressing was hasty. In terms of general finish, again, going to be quite difficult to show you, especially in this light. Have a good look at the finish, things like that. That could be deliberate, but it looks messy to me where the fingerboard stops. And this will give you an idea of the fret dressing. Just slowly move my way along. So you see there, that to me looks messy. Generally it's just a bit messy. It's not bad, there's no sharp frets or anything like that, nothing that's going to interfere the way you play. It's just not amazing, but it's a £230 instrument. There's nothing here which is wrong or bad as such. Things which are less pretty than we'd like, less perfect than we'd like, but nothing bad. So coming down to the main body of the guitar, what I would say is decent quality switch, very little side to side play in it. I've had no issues with that switch at all. Pickups are great, but something I would say, and I would check this if you buy one of these or have bought one of these, is these pickups were completely slammed into the case. So this top surface here was at the same height as this yellow surface here, this cream surface, which meant that when I plugged it in, certainly we didn't get the voicing that it should have. As soon as I raised the heights to where they should be, which I believe is meant to be around, with the flat plate, is meant to be around 2.4 mil away from the string, the guitar sounded fantastic. Are they the best pickups you'll ever hear? No. But they're comfortably not the worst. I would define the sound as good. And I don't mean good as average, I mean the sound as good. These are good sounding pickups. Also, happily, if you unscrew the back, you will find that these pickups can be coil splits. The guitar does not have coil splitting as standard, but it can be coil split should you choose to do so, with a little bit of work. So that's something you could do with this guitar. I'm not sure, I think the old pickups on this guitar you couldn't coil split, but you certainly can coil split the ones in this. So yeah, I like these pickups a lot. They work well, they're good. In terms of finish quality, I'm not sure you can be able to see this. Generally speaking, the flame top is very, very nice. I found one defect in it. There is a line underneath the lacquer. You can just about see that. I'm running the pick along where the line is. It's a tiny little scratch, but someone dinged it before they put the lacquer on. No big deal. That's just me being me. Fundamentally, it's an extremely well finished guitar. Bridge hardware. Yeah, major problem here. Basically, this is too cheap. So, like, when we talk about the fingerboard and the nut, it's cheap, but it does the job. It's good enough so far. This bridge is too cheap. I'll show you. So I don't play ridiculously. I play well within what anyone would be expected to play. And you'll see the problem here. You hear that? You see that? That saddle has been misforged. The pin is not bent, but it does not sit correctly. So I have a replacement bridge coming. It didn't do this until a couple of days ago, but that's too cheap. A bridge shouldn't be doing that after a year of light playing, really, objectively. So the bridge is a piece of trash. Tailpiece, this was set up completely incorrectly from the factory. So I don't know if you ever see it, but I have a very slight gap between the string leaving the bridge and the body of the between the string leaving the saddle of the bridge and the body of the bridge itself. When I got this guitar, the tailpiece was completely slammed down, so the string was actually in contact with the body of the bridge. Same on the other side. So that was set up far too low. The action of the bridge was also set extremely low, which meant that I would fret out quite a lot. Yeah, problematic. So yeah, basically I had to do, short of doing the fret dress, which I'm not comfortable doing, I had to completely set up every aspect of this guitar, from the fret, not the fret, from the pickups down. Everything was essentially not done. So if you think about buying this guitar as a beginner, be aware you may need to do some research to get it how you want it to be. In terms of knob controls, they work perfectly. They don't scratch, they do what they're meant to do. There's not a lot else to say about that. That's fantastic. Internally, let's switch over to the back. Internally, the components are pretty cheap. The soldering is horrendous. I'm not going to bother showing you that, but just know if you like nice soldering, probably best not to look in there. Things I would have liked to have seen that can improve it more. I'm not a fan of the colour of these. They feel a bit flimsy, particularly the bottom string. I feel like there is not, this tuning peg does not quite have enough grunt to hold it. I would have liked to have seen a volute here. That's extremely susceptible to breaking, and it would have been no more hassle really, because I mean, I'm assuming all of these are essentially milled by, they're all made by machine essentially. The wood would have been no hassle to put in an extremely simple volute, which would have added quite a bit of strength to the neck. Yeah, that worries me a bit, but I mean, that's just Les Paul style guitars. How does it sound? I'll do some acoustic playing. I'll try to do some acoustic playing so you can see how it sounds acoustically, and then at the end of the video I will do some things with the guitar in the mix, and you can see what you think. Yeah, sorry about my production quality, never really been my strength. Let's try and get something going. Yeah. So that's what it sounds like acoustically. The one other thing that I really did want to point out was again to do with the bridge really, was that this guitar had major intonation problems when it arrived. So by which I mean, if I play the A, not the A, what would be an E, but in my guitar is a D, because I play in drop C, it was not an octave above. So the intonation of all these saddles was completely wrong and needed re-sorting out. So do be aware of that. If you buy the guitar would not be in tune. So I play a chord in tune here, and when I moved up here, the chord would be out of tune if I played it an octave higher. Be aware of that. That can be a bit of a fiddle to sort out. It came with a nice set of D'Addario XLs, not MY XLs, just XLs on there. I've changed them out. Currently it's on Eddie Ball's, a set of Burley Slinkies. I'm probably going to go back to MY XLs, just my own personal preference, and see how they sound. I'm currently in drop C and I run 11, a set of Burley Slinkies essentially. So yeah, that's my review of the guitar. I'll put in a few sound clips of how it sounds amplified and how it sounds clean on DI as well. Okay, thanks a lot.